Agency is a content creation team. We're based in downtown LA. I'm the owner, photographer, producer, and we work with beauty brands to create content for social and also for web and campaigns and all of the things.
Welcome to Unfiltered Beauty, where we go behind the scenes of the beauty industry. Today, I'm sitting down with beauty photographer Karen Rosalie to talk about creating content for Sephora Brands, working with clients and models, as well as advice for photographers. Let's dive in. So you're like this ultra super creative person, and I love your work so much. How did you get into photography?
I have always been interested in photography. I think I was like born with a camera out of my hand. So like I think in the beginning I was an art major, and then I wanted to major in photography, and then I came out and I did everything. So I like did weddings, I did e-com, I did influencer blog photos back when it was, a thing. I mean, still a thing, but OOTD. I started with that, and then 5 years ago, I started my own company. And in the beginning, we worked a lot with influencers, and then we transitioned over to working with brands, and 5 years later, here we are.
And here we are at Eero House, which is a content studio rental. Can you talk more about how that came to be?
So I have a photo studio in downtown, and I've been there since I started my company. And over the years, I feel like content has just really shifted. So in the beginning, it was very like highly produced, plain backgrounds, like colored backgrounds. And then over time, clients started asking me, do you have a sink? Do you have a couch? Do you have something that feels more lifestyle and something that feels more lived in? So that's when the idea of Eero House was born, because I really see the future of content being not just inside a studio where it's like a little bit more static, but kind of in a place like this where there's versatility. There's a lot of like pockets for photo moments, especially as a photographer and being client facing. A lot of times you just really want to deliver as many different variations as possible. So I feel like that's kind of what Eero House provides. We launched this year, and it's been really fun just seeing all the content that's been created here.
I love seeing it too. Like, I'll see it on my Instagram feed from people that I'm following organically, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Karen's place.
Yeah, I'll have
so
people like
cute.
send me like emailers and be like, I recognize this place. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know. And it's crazy because I'll have like, my dream client list of people that I want to work with, and then they'll come and they'll shoot here. So it's just very exciting to be like, oh my God, my like dream client shot here.
I remember I actually found you through Mariana. And then when she started Summer Fridays, I think she was tagging you, and I'm like, this girl's really cool. Like, I love what she's doing. Pretty recently, you were sharing DIYs about how to create like the sink, for example, or different sort of photo prompts. Do you still do that?
Yes, I do that a lot.
How does it work when you're shooting for a brand? Do they come to you with a mood board and a shot list? How planned out is their creative?
Well, it just depends on the brand. Some of them are very, like they'll have the shot list and the mood board like a month in advance. Other brands will say like, can you shoot tomorrow? I try not to be that last minute anymore, but depending on what the brand needs, oftentimes you do have the DIY. Like, especially when you're in the studio and they want like a ledge or like a shelf or something, then you'll see me like propping like a glass panel between two Apple boxes and then shining a light behind to get like the shot. I think as a photographer, you have to, or even as a creative, and you're client facing, you have to be a problem solver.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times you're like, oh my God, do I have any like Q-tips to like fix this or something like that?
Yeah. What are some tips that you've learned throughout the years of little tricks that improve product photography? Things that people wouldn't really think about.
So I think like there should probably be like a kit that you have that with like just the staples. So like the staples would be like putty, which you can get on Amazon, and then a white foam board, which you can also get on Amazon. I like to use the ones from like Home Depot because like they're really foamy, so you can just cut them to the size that you need. I think for me, when I'm shooting product photography, there are certain things I look for. So like glare, if the shadows are too dark, then I like to fill it with a whiteboard, things like that.
Something that's also really important to me is, say you have a product and it's like a lip gloss, for example.
Yeah.
You know how they'll settle and you'll see inside the tube? It's not like, what's the word? It's not like filling it and looking like it's
like
full.
clumpy, or like it looks like it settles into like one.
Exactly.
So like that, little things like that. I'm like, you have to like shake it, and like we use like a microfiber cloth to like wipe down all the dust. And we also, I don't know what the actual word is or term, but it's like this like we call it the blowy thing.
Oh, I have two of this.
It's like, yeah, it's like the thing where you squeeze it and air comes out. Yeah, so it's just like to get rid of dust. I think as a product photographer, like, you know, your subject is not very big, right? Like, especially for beauty, the product is like this big. So you have to like sort of really macro, and you just have to like really be attentive to all the details.
What has been the biggest challenge that you face running Rosalie Agency, and what have you learned from it?
So I think the most challenging thing always is just being client-facing. So sometimes the job is very complicated because you're basically trying to understand what your client's vision is and then trying to translate it into a photo, and that photo has to perform on social, right? So it's taking the client's direction, knowing what performs, and then trying to meet in the middle, and then also trying to give them exactly what they want and making it look cute.
After shoots, do you usually ask them for the stats on how they performed?
No, but I follow all of my clients on Instagram, and I have post notifications turned on for all of them. So I can see how well my photo's performing compared to like what they usually, or compared to like the other photos and things like that. So I like to just keep track of things. One thing that I've learned is that you need to have a shot list and you need to have a mood board, because that file is what keeps you accountable between you and that client. So, I mean, they can tell you verbally, like, oh, I really want it like direct sunlight, but if you don't have it in writing and you don't have the reference, sometimes the communication gets lost.
So when you're shooting, you typically have that mood board open, right? And you're referencing it while you're shooting?
Yes.
Do you recommend doing that for all shoots?
100%. When I show up on set, I have like a protocol that I do, right? So like I'll have, first I'll open capture, I'll set up the file, and then I'll pull up their shot list or mood board, and then I'll connect my computer to the TV so that the client can like see the photos on the TV. So yeah, I definitely think you need a point of reference, unless the client is just like, go freestyle and do whatever you want, you know?
Does that happen often? How much of a creative say do you have in the photos?
Less than you would think.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of the clients that I work with, they have an entire marketing team. And the marketing team comes up with the prompts for what we're shooting that month, and then they know exactly where the assets are going on social. So I can't just say like, oh my God, I'm so, like I can say like, I love this photo and I'm so moved by the water droplets, but then they can be like, oh, we don't want to promote like, you know, the water, like something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, less than you would think. But then I do have some clients that will say like, we want, let's say they want 20 photos, 15 will be shot by shot, this is how we want it. And then 5 would be like Karen freestyle.
Do you find that that makes it easier for you to have that creative direction from the brand going into the shoot, or would you rather have you having full creative freedom?
It just depends, because I would hate to do a shoot and the client will come back and say, well, this wasn't really what I was expecting, you know? So like, that's why I actually think I always request a shot list no matter what, even if they're like, I just trust you and I want your creative vision. I'm like, okay, but pull some images that you love and then let me know like where I can, you know, whether you like this style or this style or this style.
Yeah. How do you deal with reshoots? Because we've all been there.
Reshoots, it's like my least favorite word. I think, and I talked about this on my social too, I think when you have a reshoot, that means that miscommunication happened somewhere along the line, right? Between the shot list and going over the shot list and all of that. And sometimes, I mean, sometimes you just can't help it. Like the client might be expecting one thing and then the location didn't turn out to be the way that they expected it, or it's like super cloudy and then they want it like bright and airy photos, you know? So sometimes you just can't help it. I think how you protect yourself is in the initial contract and in the initial call, you have to let the client know, like if there is a reshoot, there's an additional fee.
Yeah.
Because as annoying as reshoots are, I mean, I understand it from the client's perspective, like they didn't get what they want, right? But then from the creative perspective, it's like, that's my time and I have to bring the team back, and it's like,
yeah, it's basically doing the whole shoot all over again. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So my like personal rule about that is, if I have to do a reshoot over and over again with a client, then it's probably just not working out.
Yeah.
And I'm not the creative that they're looking for. So.
Speaking of clients, how do you go about finding new clients?
So that I think is very interesting, because a lot of like obviously with the client list that we have, you would think that we do a lot of client outreach, but we actually don't.
I love that for you.
Yeah, like I'm like trying to think. I think how we do, because I'll try to reach out to those dream clients that I like Fenty. Like I like try to reach, like I'll like DM them and stuff. But I think that the best way is to just have a portfolio that's really good and that is in line with what they're looking for. And these brands, they have a social media manager that's constantly on Instagram looking for content creators, like, oh, who created that photo, who created that. So I think one thing that we're really good at is just like having like little breadcrumbs on Instagram. Because you found me through Mariana, right? Like Mariana's a great influencer that I work with that tags and like shares and stuff like that. So just being tagged by other people like gave me more exposure than me actually going to reach out to those specific clients.
That's amazing. That's like the dream scenario. What advice would you give other than creating a portfolio, because that's super important, for photographers who are just starting out and trying to get into product photography?
So I think being professional is super important, and that's one thing that I see a lot of young creatives not really having or not keeping as a priority. So I think like meeting your deadlines, being super responsive with your emails, and then just being on time. Like I think all these little things really matter when it comes to being client facing, because at the end of the day, my motto is like the client's always right. So like it doesn't matter if you have a client that's not that big or if your client that's super huge, like you treat them all the same, and a happy client will refer you to other clients. So like 100% of my business is through referrals. So like I work really well with like a marketing person, and then when that marketing person moves to a different company, they'll bring me along with them. So that's actually happened to a few of my big like clients.
That's amazing.
Another advice I have for like young creatives is like, don't be scared. I think a lot of times when you're first starting out, maybe you feel like, oh, like that person will never respond to me, or my portfolio is not good enough, like, oh my God, my work will never be as good as that person. But I think that at the end of the day, as a creative, the biggest person that's holding you back is yourself. So you just need to ignore all those fears, go for it, like reach out to people, and don't be scared. So like I have a great assistant right now, and she reached out to me when I put out like a thing on my Instagram saying I'm looking for an assistant, and she just applied. But she was like, I was really nervous. And so I was like, thank God you did, because I wouldn't have found you otherwise.
I get in my head so much when it comes to photos and videos, to the point where I won't even post work because I'm like, no, this isn't good enough.
Or like me. Like I literally wanted to start a YouTube channel like 10 years ago. And
you're so good at it.
No, but I was like, no, I'm not good. I'm not cute enough, I'm not pretty enough. Like I was like, I can't talk properly in front of a camera. I get too in my own head. And I tried filming myself, and I would like stutter. I was just so in my own head. Like it literally, like imagine if I had, gotten started 10 years ago, I feel like I would be in a different space.
Yeah. I'm still like that to this day. I will stutter over things. I'll have to repeat lines all the time. I'm like, brain, work please. Like, you know what you're trying to say, it's just not coming out.
Yeah.
Or when it comes to ideas for shoots, it's like, you have amazing ideas and you take the photos, and sometimes they don't come out amazing. And that's so disappointing for me. Like, I thought it was gonna be this amazing shoot, and then I have to go and redo it. So how do you deal with something like that? If you're working on a personal project and it's not working out for you, do you go back to it later? Do you instantly go back to it and try to fix it?
That's me like at every shoot. I'll do it and I'll feel good about it, and then I'll look at it and be like, but I think the best advice that I heard was that inspiration comes and goes. Is like a friend that just like comes and visits sometimes. So when they do come visit, you just like hang out with them, and like you get inspired by the inspiration, right? And then you just go and create. If you're not feeling it that day, don't force it. And then also I think that it's always going to be a journey. Like I'm working on a personal project right now, and I'll look at it, and this was like 3 months ago, and now I'm like, I have to reshoot everything. Like this is not the vibe anymore. But I think you just have to be more forgiving to yourself too. Like part of the reason why we're so in our own heads is like everything's so serious, And it's just like, it's not that serious. Yeah. It's just like, just reshoot it.
Like my mom tells me all the time, this isn't going on the cover of Vogue. Like,
yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that serious.
Yeah. So going back to working with clients and product photo shoots, or even working with models,
Yeah.
how do you go about finding models? Do the brands provide them, or do you find the models?
That's a great question. I feel like in this line of work that I do, it's kind of like which comes first, like the chicken or the egg? Because, I mean, you have to start from somewhere. And in the beginning, working with modeling agencies, I actually did a lot of the outreach myself because I was getting clients that would ask me to produce for them. So I just had to figure it out. Like I was exactly where maybe some of your viewers are like today, where I'm like, I don't know where to start. But you just, Google will be your best friend. Like there's no questions that you can't find on Google, you know? So like, I just Googled LA modeling agencies. I asked around like to friends if they had any recommendations and kind of just started from there. I was lucky because I just started working with this agent from industry and we kind of grew together. He was giving me a lot of like deals in the beginning and just, you know, sending me packages and stuff. And then we grew and I started giving him more business. So it was a very like beneficial relationship now that we're in year 5 of our business. So I think especially when you're first starting out, it's about finding the people that you can grow with.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And those people can be lifelong connections, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it comes to editing photos, recently there's been this whole shift towards unfiltered images and videos. How does that affect your editing style?
Well, I don't know if I'm giving any industry secrets away because in my experience, the unedited is still edited.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's just a little bit less work. But I mean, it's the same. We'll either do it in-house or we'll like send it out to a retoucher.
So do you usually edit yourself or do you find yourself more going towards the retoucher?
So in the beginning, I was doing everything myself.
Yeah.
I was the retoucher, I was the shooter, I was a lighter, I was not the videographer because I never learned video. But now, because there's so many things going on, I feel like I just don't have the time to retouch. So I'll send it out to a retoucher and I have an in-house person that I've trained too.
How did you know it's time for me to bring on new people, bring on a videographer, time to grow my team?
I would say I'm a very cautious business person, so I don't like to invest in anything that I haven't seen results yet. So like, for example, Eero House, I knew that, I mean, I didn't know it was gonna work, but I like had a hunch that it might work because I was already receiving requests from clients already. And I was already going out and renting locations that could be like a beauty shoot. So in terms of like hiring a retoucher, like bringing on an assistant, like bring on video and stuff like that, I don't like to do that unless there's a need for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I don't know if it's just a Capricorn thing or what, but if I don't have to spend money, I won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll try to do everything myself.
Yeah. Especially when you're a small business, like I tend to be kind of risk aversive. So like, unless a client asks for it and I know that it's going to work and I can like trust this person, like I try not to like put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah, which is so smart.
Yeah.
Like, I love that you did this. It's such a great idea.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we have made it to the lightning round.
Okay.
So rapid fire. What are your favorite products to shoot?
My favorite products to shoot? Ooh, something watery and like drippy, because those are always so fun.
Like serums?
Yeah, or like shampoo and conditioners that I can like just throw in water.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah.
So you can only have one lens. Which one would you choose?
The 24 to 70.
Why?
Is that cheating? Like, no, it's one lens.
Yeah.
It's versatile. So I can like do the wide shot, I can do the zoom shot.
What is one item you cannot live on set without?
My tether cord. I need to shoot tethered to a computer.
Flat lays or texture shots?
Texture shots. It's like flat lay, we don't know her.
Photoshop or Lightroom?
Photoshop.
Well, that is it. Thank you so much, Karen, for being on Unfiltered Beauty. Where can everybody find you? Eero House, Rosalie Agency.
You can find me on Instagram at karen.rosalie. And then from there, you can find Rosalie Agency at rosalie.agency and then Eero House at eero.house.